Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of October 30th through November 5th of 2023. Alright, so we're still in the eclipse lunar cycle and coming off of that lunar eclipse from the weekend of last week. And so it is a great week for implementing any new perspectives we gained over the weekend, any pivots or changes along the life path, and starting to challenge ourselves to do that more towards the end of the week when we do get to the third quarter moon there. We do have a lot of sign changes this week, which symbolizes a shift of energy. We have Mercury and Mars entering Libra right at the beginning of the week. That's going to place more of an emphasis on themes around balance, around fairness, reciprocity, and one-on-one connections as well. We have Venus going into Virgo to still continue the Virgo energies here. So around midweek, starting to value more of the improvement and refinement energies, probably starting to see more of that improvement energy in our relationships, which Venus also represents. And then we have the Sun entering Libra at the very end of the week on Sunday, which is going to place even more of a focus on that balance, fairness, and reciprocity. All right, and we do have quite a few aspects this week, as well as Saturn going station direct, moving forward, a lot of things that perhaps we've had to be patient with this year and maybe working hard on this year, we can see move forward also. So let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, October 30th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology, which unfortunately does not use the visible sky. And so the signs do change. The signs are different. So if you are new, definitely check out that link down below for more information. All right, so this week we have a lot of sign changes. I mean, for all intents and purposes, all the fast movers are changing signs this week. We have that Venus finally leaving that very long transit of Leo, which isn't a horrible thing at all for Venus. In fact, it's been great to connect more in the realm of self-expression and enjoyment of the more playful and creative energies of life and fun energies. But that's going to shift into Virgo about midweek there. Continuing with the Virgo energy, that's where we've had a lot of energy lately. Virgo's been about improvement and improving both the internal and external worlds there. So that's still going to be continuing with, although these planets like the Sun, Mercury, and Mars, who've been in Virgo for quite some time, are leaving, Venus will be entering to continue that. And so, yeah, right at the beginning of the week on the 30th, we have Mercury and Mars starting to shift into Libra. So let's go ahead and talk about this right here for Monday. So Monday we have Mercury, the planet of our mind and communication, and still next to Mars. And this is the planet of assertiveness and drive. And so since the weekend, it's been really good to cultivate a little bit of that more direct energy in our communications, a little bit more of that fiery energy with our minds and even our day-to-day lives and day-to-day routine, to implement more of that proactive energy that the lunar eclipse was really helping us cultivate. So that's still in continuation, since these planets are still very close to each other, but they're both going to go into a much more other-oriented and much more balance-oriented sign of Libra, the sign opposite Aries here. So for the upcoming weeks, I think it's great to be, first of all, with Mercury thinking more in alignment with how we can have more balance in our life. And this is balance internally, of course, which is, being aware of if there are energies of our life that are out of balance, we can bring those back into balance, whether it's in the realm of personal development, whether it's in the realm of our day-to-day lives, which Mercury can often represent, and also how we're thinking about things. Libra reminds us that there's two sides of the coin of everything in life. There's always a polarity, and how it's important to balance that polarity or bring in the opposite if things are out of balance. And of course, externally as well, in relationships, Libra often is associated with this. And we're talking all relationships here, not just the ones that we're in an actual partnership with or, a long-term relationship with. This is all about having more fairness, more reciprocity, and coming to more mutual agreement when it comes to all of our dealings with others, right? And very much like the scales of justice, bringing things back into balance, or maybe you could even say karmic balance with Libra. And so with our minds here, we're going to be likely thinking about things in this way, communicating more in this way. With Mars also joining the mix, taking action in this way, we'll likely notice a much more fair-minded, justice-oriented, moral approach to when we're taking action and doing things. That can be a little bit uncomfortable for Mars, of course, as he's not very strong in this placement. He'd prefer to be in Aries, which is much more of that self-oriented. So, but with mindfulness and conscious intention, I think it's great to be focused on how we can also not only meet our own needs, but also that what's really good for us, what's actually good for us, is actually good for those that we're in a relationship with or others around us in our life. And what's actually good for our relationships is good for us. There is that balance. There is that two sides of the same coin. And I think it's great to start to develop some of that. And then the sun will shift into Libra a little bit later, a lot later actually in the week, which will be on Sunday. All right, but continuing with Monday here, the moon will be in Taurus for the first few days of the week. So the theme these first few days is around taking the slow and steady approach to life. It's very good to be grounded. This is an easy placement for the moon, so our emotions tend to be a little bit easier to connect with, process, and also to be a bit self-reliant and resourceful, taking things one step at a time. Connecting with our inner self-value, self-worth is really good with this, and also connecting to the external resources such as nature or the sensual life can be fantastic as well. So really grounding the energies, the earth energies of Taurus the bull, taking things one step at a time, stopping to smell the roses is a great way of working with these first few days here. But we do have some different energy, some Uranus energy, which is a bit outside of the routine. Usually it's a bit exciting or different or good to get outside our comfort zone with. And that's going to be specifically with those relations and with our values. We have Venus, the planet of our relations and values, that Libra energy in good harmony to spontaneous and experimental Uranus. So it could be a great Tuesday here in particular for enjoying a little bit more of the spontaneous energy in our connections to others and our spontaneous connections to life in general, enjoying things a little bit more in the realm of listening to our excitement and having a bit of that change in our everyday life, in our relational life. So that's very nice there. We could see Tuesday being supportive for that. And again, always, even with the easy transits, it's good to challenge ourselves, and I think challenging ourselves to get outside of our comfort zone a little bit when it comes to our enjoyments of life and our connections in life, I think is a great way of working with Tuesday. Wednesday sees the continuation of that moon in Taurus, that again grounded and resourceful energy. And then once we do start to get into Thursday, the moon will enter Gemini, placing more of a theme around learning and communication, very similar to that mercurial energy we're talking about. So Thursday, really good for getting into the mind, the practical, the learning, whether it's picking up that book, whether it's doing some exchanging with others or some communications. Very good for that mental, cerebral energy there. And then as we start to get into the Friday time, we start to come into the more of the aspects of the week, and really it's the oppositions. We just so happen to have 3 oppositions with 3 different planets here, both Friday and Saturday. Now, oppositions are very much like Libra energy. I think it's very important to make that connection. Opposite the ascendant or the beginning of the chart is Libra. And so anytime you're dealing with oppositions, you are dealing with oftentimes a balancing energy, right? Like Libra, the scales, where it tends to be either things needing to be brought back into balance, or in those relationships, things can come up as well, things being mirrored back to us from another, or from the external. So we definitely see that theme here this week. But the first of the oppositions is going to be the Sun opposite Jupiter. So that can tend to over or under extreme the Jupiterian energies, which is the open-minded and adventurous energies of life. So there could be maybe some inspiration, some hopefulness, some potentials that we're seeing. And so good to, again, be aware of that so that we can balance that out. It could be coming from could be coming from relationship. And so seeing how we can connect to that adventurous and free-spirited part of our life in a balanced way, I think is a great way of working with Thursday and Friday, really. And just to, really clarify here, oppositions aren't particularly challenging. I know they show up red here in these charts, but they're nothing like squares, which tend to be more of a clash. These are, if anything, more neutral in nature. But again, it is just good to work with them in a way that we want to try to merge the energies together, balance the energies together. And in this case, those healthy expressions of expansive, free-spirited Jupiter. All right, and then also here on Friday, going into Saturday here a bit, is then going to be Venus again, opposite Neptune. There could be the over or under extremes here around the hopes, wishes, dreams of what we enjoy in life or value, and maybe even hopes, wishes, and dreams of relationships as well. So again, good to be mindful of that to help keep things nice and balanced, as that really is the theme here this week. And then as we do get into Saturday, Mercury will be opposite up to Uranus. So again, we have more Uranus energy, which is that excitement and getting outside the norm of things, and here with our minds. So here, and with communications as well. So again, just generally, I would say it's a good week to be thinking outside the box. And especially here on a Saturday, we could be really utilizing a very forward-thinking, very innovative mind, and maybe some exciting things to mix up in our routines or our day-to-day activities. And again, good to just sort of balance that out so we don't go to any over or under extremes with that Uranus. And then we have Saturn going station direct, and that's going to be a slow process, as Saturn is still quite a slow-moving planet. He's been retrograde for about the past 4.5, 5 months here. And so it's been good to maybe take a bit of a break or reflect on things in terms of what we've been accomplishing this year, these past, let's say, 4.5 months. And so now that he's going direct, it is good to start to implement some of these things that maybe we've wanted to achieve this year, maybe particularly earlier this year that we set out to accomplish or achieve. We can really start to implement now, slowly start to implement as Saturn slowly builds his momentum going forward. So again, Saturn represents all the achievements of our life, all the things we want to put energy towards that we know will take time. And it's not just the productive or career stuff. This is also wherever Saturn is in your chart. And so it could be in your relationship sector, it could be in your home sector, it could be in a personal life sector like that. And so anywhere where you do want to put some of that commitment, some of that responsibility, some of that perseverance in your life in general, I think it's great to slowly start to implement that. We could maybe see some of those things that have had that theme start to move forward as well. Okay, and Saturday does have the moon in Cancer, so Saturday is generally just a good day there for a bit of that protective environment, creating that protective environment for ourselves and others as well. This is where we're starting to get into the third quarter moon of this lunar cycle, this solar eclipse cycle. And so it is good to really challenge ourselves. We're usually more willing to do it now in the third quarter phase. We've had 3 weeks now of this lunar cycle. And so good to see how we can really implement. And again, what we're likely implementing is the shifts of perspective that we had a week prior to this weekend of this week. So in other words, the previous weekend coming into this week. And so great to implement, integrate. I think Cancer, the more emotional and protective, creating that protective environment for ourselves and others is great to do that with. And I would say particularly with the Leo energies, which is with self-expression. So how can we, and this will take us into next week as well, but here this week on Sunday, cultivate a little bit more of that self-expression into the mix, doing things that we find fun and playful and creative in that sense. All right, and then the sun will start to enter into Libra here, finishing off the week, and into next week, putting more of a focus on that balance and fairness. All right, so that's a mouthful, but as you can hopefully see, there is a lot of things pointing towards that same area, and it really is in that Libra sort of department. So right at the beginning of the week, we have this Libra, the scales getting activated in terms of our minds, in terms of our taking actions, in terms of our focus a little bit later in the week. A lot of the oppositions this week point towards that same thing, bringing things into balance in our life. And of course, Libra and these oppositions can place a strong theme on relating with others or relationship stuff being brought up, not necessarily for anything challenging, but for working with others perhaps a little bit more, maybe some partnership stuff, things like that, likely to be a very strong theme. We could notice a little bit of change in excitement with that around Tuesday with the trine to Uranus. We have those oppositions, which is just good for balance a little bit later in the week. We have Saturn going direct, which is good to implement more of the long-term things we want to achieve or accomplish in our lives. And the third quarter suggesting just a good weekend to challenge ourselves and really implement any new perspectives from the previous weekend. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you haven't yet gotten your True Sidereal report, there's a link down below for that. There's a free report as well as a paid report if you'd like the full one as well. But again, thank you so much for all of your support with this channel, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.